All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today we are tackling a big one, Reddit. We're going to dig into its high-stakes gamble as a newly public company by breaking down its business, stacking it up against its giant competitors, and figuring out what the future might actually hold for investors. Okay, let's dive right in, because this isn't about your favorite subreddits. This is about the business machine humming along behind them. We're going way beyond the memes to see if Reddit, the stock, is the ultimate underdog story, or if it's facing just impossible odds in the brutal world of digital ads.
Let's just start with this number right here, $2.2 billion. That is the projected revenue for Reddit in 2025. And if they hit it, this will be more than just growth. It'd be a massive 69% jump from the year before, signaling a huge shift from a company that basically lost money for years to one that's finally profitable.
So where's all that money supposed to come from? Well, this chart makes it super clear. For all the talk about community, at its heart, Reddit is an advertising business. An incredible 94% of its revenue comes from ads. But that little 6% sliver for data licensing, that's the really interesting, fast-growing part of the story.
So here's our game plan. First, we'll look at how Reddit actually makes money. Then, we'll size up the competition. And boy, is it fierce. We'll dig into its strengths and its weaknesses, stress test the biggest risks, and then the big one. What could the future actually hold for the stock?
All right, let's jump into our first section, the business model itself. Honestly, the best way to picture it is like a rocket with two very different engines, one huge and one small, but both are firing to push this thing forward.
So you've got the main engine, right? That's advertising, bringing in almost all the cash, about 94%. They place ads right inside those super specific communities where people are already talking about products and looking for advice. But then there's that second, much newer engine, data licensing. This is where they sell access to that massive library of human conversations to companies like Google and OpenAI, so they can train their AI.
Now, what's really wild here is just the sheer acceleration. I mean, look at that projected leap from 2023 to 2025. Revenue nearly triples. This is what happens when both of those engines, the ads and the data, are firing on all cylinders at the exact same time. It's blasting the company into a whole new financial league.
But, this kind of explosive growth doesn't happen in a bubble. So how does Reddit really stack up against the competition? This is where you see the real David versus Goliath story play out.
Just look at this. The difference in scale is absolutely staggering. For every one person using Reddit every day, Meta has nearly 30. And for every dollar Reddit makes from one of its users, Meta has pulling in almost 10. This really puts the size of the mountain they have to climb into perspective, doesn't it?
And if we zoom out a little bit, you can see Reddit is still a pretty small fish in a giant ocean. It's competing for ad money not just with other platforms like X, but with the absolute behemoths of the industry, Meta and YouTube, who are just operating on a totally different financial planet.
And here's the kicker. This is the crucial point. Reddit isn't just trying to get a slice of the pie from other niche players. It's fighting to scrape off a piece of a market that is utterly dominated by a powerful duopoly. Meta and Google control almost half of all digital ad spending in the US. That's who they're really up against.
So this brings up the big question, right? How on earth can a company like Reddit even hope to compete? Well, this is their big gambit. The answer is they have to lean into the things that make them, weird. They have to turn their quirks into their biggest weapons.
And you know what? Their strengths are pretty formidable. First, you've got these high-intent communities. People don't just mindlessly scroll. They show up looking for answers and real recommendations. Second, it's a treasure trove of first-party data, which is a huge advantage as privacy rules get stricter. And that last one, that massive archive of human conversation, is an absolute goldmine for training the next generation of AI. But, and this is a big but, its weaknesses are just as glaring. We already saw that massive gap in scale. Its text-based format struggles to pull in those big brand advertising dollars compared to premium video on a platform like YouTube. And its ad tools, while they're getting better, are still playing catch-up to the hyper-sophisticated, automated systems that Meta and Google have been perfecting for decades.
So that brings us to the key risks. How do these weaknesses become real threats to the business? Let's put Reddit's newfound profitability through a little stress test.
Okay, let's run a quick simulation. Imagine the ad market gets rocky, or maybe Reddit's ad platform just stumbles for a bit. Advertisers get nervous, and they pull just 25% of their budget and shift it back to the safe bets like Meta and Google. What does that do to the bottom line?
And this is where it gets really eye-opening. Look at the dramatic hit to profit. A 25% drop in ad revenue doesn't just shrink profits, it practically vaporizes them. You go from over $500 million down to just under $60 million. It's a massive drop.
And this chart just lays it out crystal clear. It shows you just how fragile its profitability is right now. See, a lot of its costs are fixed in the short term, so when revenue dips even moderately, the profit can fall right off a cliff. It really highlights how critical it is for them to keep that growth momentum going.
So, with these incredibly high stakes, what could the future actually look like for investors? Well, based on all the risks and opportunities, analysts have mapped out a few potential timelines for the stock. And man, the range of possible outcomes here is just huge. Starting from about $150 a share, a pessimistic scenario sees the stock dropping to around $115. But in an optimistic world where growth keeps firing and they manage those risks, the price could surge past $250 by the end of 2026 and maybe even top $300 by 2028. The path the stock takes is going to depend almost entirely on revenue growth. I mean, that's it. The difference between that pessimistic future and the optimistic one is over $1.5 billion in annual revenue by 2028. That's the gap between just stagnating and truly breaking through as a major player.
So, it all boils down to this single question. Will Reddit's unique advantages, its high-intent communities, and that one-of-a-kind data corpus be enough to win this high-stakes gambit? Or are the giants in this industry just too big, too powerful to beat? That right there is the multi-billion-dollar question for every single investor.